Grampy's crack. This is arguably the most mysterious phenomenon indoors, and its importance to the game's overall story makes it incredibly enticing to solve. For those who don't know, Grampy's crack is a threat that was added in the Outdoors update, nearly 5 months ago as of recording this video. It is a seemingly harmless crevice within the ground located next to Grampy in the mill, hence why I call it Grampy's crack, given its close proximity to the Grampy entity. Despite appearing innocent at first, this fracture has slowly been expanding across the entire game, with each and every update. As I had already mentioned, you can find it within the Outdoors. However, it is also present in the mines and in a few other locations as of recent updates. When Grampy's crack was first added, I had made a video going over my theory regarding its existence. Since then, a lot has changed, as not only has the crack gotten bigger, but there is a deeper narrative being told about it. Today, I'd like to revisit Grampy's crack indoors, and take another crack at its overall story, pun intended. We have got a lot to discuss today, so with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so to start, I want to go over what exactly we know so far about Grampy's crack. As I said, it's a crevice that appears all throughout the game. However, in recent updates, it appears to receive even more locations that it's present inside of. When the crack was first added in the Outdoors update, it only appeared in 2 areas, those being the mill in the Outdoors and the elevator rift room in the mines. Since then though, the crevice has appeared in one more location, and that is the lobby. Separating the hotel from the mines elevators and the back door section are 2 separate crevices that look identical to the ones previously seen, only this time they are a lot larger. Now, as for direct locations of Grampy's crack, these are the only areas so far where the phenomenon occurs. However, these cracks aren't actually entirely unique things, as they are actually part of something much larger. That much larger thing can be found in only one area so far, and that is the backdoor subfloor. So if we want answers as to what Grampy's crack is, we have to travel there to get them. You see, the back door is home to the vacuum. This is a black void of pure nothingness that surrounds the subfloor, and it attempts to suck in anything nearby, including whole parts of rooms. In several aspects of the back door, the vacuum can visibly be seen tearing the rooms apart, cracking and ripping them to expose itself. Given how the vacuum surrounds the door's world, and how the cracks appear to penetrate deep into the ground until it reaches something pitch black, it is widely believed that these Grampy's cracks all throughout the game are actually leading into the vacuum. This actually aligns with the destruction-causing nature of the vacuum seen in the back door, meaning it's possible the same thing could be happening to other floors. To further connect the vacuum and the cracks, in one backdoor room you can even find what appears to be an absolutely massive Grampy's crack, separating the whole room into 2 distinct parts. Now, it isn't directly confirmed that Grampy's cracks are leading into the vacuum, and are the direct result of the vacuum expanding into the main floors, trying to tear them apart like it's doing to the back door. This is just based on observation. However, so far it appears to be the best explanation out there to explain what the cracks are and why they exist. So, if the vacuum is causing the appearance of Grampy's cracks, that must mean it's expanding out of the back door. However, why is it doing that? Up until the Outdoors update, the vacuum was entirely localized to the back door and nowhere else. Why is it suddenly being exposed to other floors? Well, this is where the more speculative side of this video comes from. Now, back when I made my first video on Grampy's crack, I had a theory which I thought was pretty good. This theory has since been disproven by the developers themselves, but I would still like to go over it and explain why it's wrong to clear up any confusion. Essentially, I initially believed that the World Lotus was the one causing the expansion of the vacuum through these cracks. As you may know, the World Lotus has extended its reach to practically every floor, and it's shown to have the capability to physically break and fracture the world around it, sometimes exposing the vacuum. I believed that the World Lotus was becoming so strong that these fractures started to expose the vacuum in all the locations it was present in, leading to the creation of the Grampy's cracks. Now, like I said, although that theory was relatively strong when it was made, the developers confirmed it was likely incorrect. So, if the World Lotus isn't causing the vacuum's expansion, what is? Well, it's likely the vacuum isn't being physically aided by anything, such as something like the World Lotus, but rather it's expanding on its own, much like how it's seen independently consuming some rooms in the back door. So what's causing the vacuum to suddenly expand? Well, there are a couple theories that the community, as well as myself, have come up with to explain this expansion. The first is probably the most boring, and that is the most safe, given how it doesn't rely on too much interpretation, but it's what I like to call the natural theory. Essentially, the vacuum is shown to have a natural tendency to just suck everything around it, exposing more of the world to itself. As the vacuum consumes more, deeper and deeper parts of the world become exposed to it, allowing for them to be consumed as well. So what if the Grampy's cracks are just the natural progression of the vacuum sucking up everything? It started in the back door, and now it's slowly making its way to the other floors. Nothing could really be causing Grampy's cracks to appear, it's just the result of the vacuum's natural all-consuming tendencies. There really isn't any hard evidence disproving the natural theory. However, even if it is true, then it means nothing can really be done to stop the progression of the expanding vacuum, which wouldn't really be that satisfying narratively speaking. Eventually, the entire world will just crack and then be consumed by the vacuum. This is why I believe that the vacuum's expansion isn't just a natural thing that's always happening, but rather something is triggering the thing to break more chunks of the world off and expose more of itself. As to what that trigger is, there seems to be one prevailing theory, and that is what I like to call the forgetting theory. This is based on a single line of dialogue from Curious Light, but I do think it's possibly one of the strongest explanations for Grampy's crack. Essentially, upon dying in the back door for the first time, Curious Light will state how some parts of the floor have been forgotten, and following that, they'll say how some parts are missing too, referring to the chunks of rooms torn off by the vacuum. Curious Light says this line almost as if the two events are correlating, as if the subfloor being forgotten causes the vacuum to expose itself by breaking pieces of rooms off. This is where the forgotten theory comes from. The theory states that the expansion of the vacuum through Grampy's cracks is the direct result of the world being forgotten, possibly by the player. Glitch, who is an entity that lives in our mind, reveals to us that our player character has repressed memories and tends to be forgetful. What if, through some supernatural force, that forgetfulness is tearing the door's world apart through Grampy's cracks? I know it is a very strange thought, but it's a rather interesting theory, especially regarding what Curious Light has to say. Either way, until we know what's causing this crack to continue its expansion, it'll just grow and grow until eventually the whole door's world is consumed by the vacuum, and that is pretty scary to think about. So, with all of that being said, that was basically all the new stuff we received about Grampy's crack in the latest updates. It not only appears in the lobby as of recent updates, but apparently some widely accepted theories regarding it, such as my Lotus one, were deemed incorrect by the developers themselves, which is quite rare, as the developers don't typically just disprove theories outright, meaning we have to reevaluate what is going on with this phenomenon. So, with all of that being said, let me know down in the comments what you think of the theories I mentioned in this video. Do you believe the natural theory is more likely to explain what's happening with Grampy's crack, or the forgotten theory? Also, while you're down there, let me know what your own ideas are for explaining the presence of Grampy's crack, as although those two theories I just mentioned are quite good, there's definitely more possible explanations, which you guys can come up with. So, with all of that being said, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.